Welcome, Internet. Today we're going to be going over the Blizzard news, and in that we're going to be covering the Diablo IV updates. We're also going to be covering some World of Warcraft, and some bad news going on at Blizzard HQ as well. First, we're going to start off here with Diablo IV, the Lord of Hatred, and they are going to be completely removing passive skills. The Diablo IV Lord of Hatred expansion is revamping the class skill trees, with most dramatic change being the removal of passive skills entirely, as revealed during an official Sanctuary sit-down on Discord with members of the Diablo IV development team. Blizzard is looking to make it so class skill trees are more about offering customization than raw power spikes. As a result, passive skill nodes are being removed. I would assume that they're going to be refunding people those skill points so that way they can redirect them into other skills. Each active skill will be receiving new customizations options to help fill some of those power gaps. But overall, Blizzard wants to make it so becoming more powerful is more about finding and crafting better gear, leveling up the Paragon board, and equipping the right legendary aspects as opposed to ticking flat damage bonus boxes on the skill tree. In total, there are 80 additional new skill options and 40 reworked ones that will be coming to all Diablo IV players. Lord of Hatred owners will have 20 additional skill choices to choose from. I imagine with this kind of an update, the Diablo IV players will consider Blizzard the Lord of Hatred and just hate their guts entirely. I imagine that probably more than a few people will just stop playing altogether because they won't like the way that the game has been revamped. I personally have stopped playing Diablo when Diablo 3 came out, and I stopped playing it there because I didn't like the way Diablo 3 played. In a blog post, Blizzard gave an example of the changes using the Sorcerer's Hydra skill. Currently, the skill tree allows for boosted burning damage or more critical strike potential. Under the new skill tree, players will have options to increase the Hydra's attack speed, trigger explosions, or cause burning in an area of effect. Players will even have the option to turn the Hydra into a frost skill, opening up more possibilities. While passive skills are being removed, it's currently unclear if key passives are also being scrapped. Each class currently has 4 key passive abilities to choose from, many of which are build-defining power spikes that determine how each class plays. Well, yeah, because if you remove those kinds of passives, like weapon-based ones, for example, if you equip a paladin with like a non-sword, for example, and if the passive for the paladin is for a sword, he's not going to receive those bonuses, but if you scrap it, then everybody's just going to get the same basic weapons damage, and there would be no reason to restrict one character class from using another character class's weapon at all. It would be total anarchy from that perspective. Blizzard recently blew the lid off what to expect from Diablo 4's second expansion during a Diablo 30th anniversary spotlight, revealing the new Warlock class that's already active in Diablo 2 Resurrected, and will be landing in Diablo 4 with Lord of Hatred. The class is additionally coming to Blizzard's free-to-play mobile spin-off Diablo Immortal this summer. In addition to the Warlock, Blizzard also shared more information about Lord of Hatred ahead of its launch on April 28, including its new war plans in-game, Amazons, and how the expansion's Skovos region will be more beautiful than Diablo players are accustomed to, at least until Mephisto shows up. You can now, and so that's it for the World of Warcraft, or that's it for Diablo. Now we're going to move into the World of Warcraft update, which now apparently you can spend real-world money on your house in World of Warcraft. I don't like this idea because you're just reinforcing microtransactions at this point, and I think microtransactions are a horrible thing. Those who want to spend real money sprucing up their virtual World of Warcraft home can now do so, with Blizzard now offering premium housing decor in World of Warcraft's in-game shop. The first premium decor items for sale are 2 plushies. Stuffed animals. Yes, that's right, real-world money for virtual stuffed animals. A lion representing the Alliance, and a direwolf representing the Horde. Each plushie individually costs 100 Hearthsteel. World of Warcraft's new premium housing currency, buying exactly 100 Hearthsteel is in the shop, costs $1. Housing decor items are single-use items, so those who want to stuff their house with plushies may instead want to buy the bundle pack that comes with 4 of each plushie instead. The bundle costs 500 Hearthsteel, or $5. Now that it's officially live, Hearthsteel Heartsteel is actually World of Warcraft's real premium currency, if you don't count the World of Warcraft token, an item that can be sold for gold or used to pay for a WoW subscription. Heartsteel raised concerns among WoW's player base last year when Blizzard first announced its intentions, largely because players weren't a fan of a paid game with a monthly subscription adding a premium currency as if it were a free-to-play mobile game. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. You're reinforcing the microtransactions in a game that already requires you to pay a monthly fee to play it in the first place. Blizzard, for its part, stated it aimed for Heartsteel to be player-friendly and said it was needed in order to make purchasing multiple inexpensive items more efficient than simply selling them for real money. Why not just make things, use buyable and sellable using in-game gold rather than trying to line your pockets with microtransactions dollars? Being player-friendly would mean getting rid of all microtransactions entirely. Blizzard is hardly player-friendly with this. And you look at the way that it's doing Diablo IV with the removing of skills, and I imagine there's going to be a fair bit of people that at least leave over Diablo IV. However, I imagine that with World of Warcraft, a lot of people are so ingrained in the WoW cult that I don't think it'll actually make much difference as far as people playing it. They just won't use the currency. But that's just me, but that's because that's how I view microtransactions and those things like premium currency. In an interview with GameSpot, WoW housing principal game designer Jesse Kurlanchik said using Heartsteel is also due to Battle.net shop not having a shopping cart feature to batch together smaller purchases, and because Blizzard needs to be mindful of regulatory hurdles when it comes to real money purchases. He said using Heartsteel also makes it easier for Blizzard to offer refunds. Yeah, it's almost like microtransactions kind of skirt that line between legal and illegal. With the two plushies, Blizzard is so far keeping true to its promise of offering inexpensive items and selling Heartsteel at a fixed, easy-to-understand prices. Players can easily buy just 100 Heartsteel needed to make the purchase without having leftover currency, and there is no bonus Heartsteel on offer for those who spend more money on larger currency packs. What you see is thankfully what you get. I mean, at least they're doing that, because the whole get a bonus purchases like they do with Elder Scrolls Online, where if you buy a certain pack, you get an additional 300 of the in-game currency, but what you're trying to buy doesn't require that 300, and so you're stuck with this 300 that you can't use because the minimum amount is 500 of in-game currency, so you have to go back and you have to buy another smallest pack, but that has an additional bonus of 100 of the in-game currency, so you're constantly in this cycle of having to try to buy more to balance out, which I think is bordering on predatory. Player housing in WoW is available now for those who pre-order WoW's upcoming Midnight expansion, releasing on March 2nd. Many of Midnight's new features like housing, an additional Demon Hunter specialization, user interface additions, and its crackdown on player-made mods that aid in combat are live now as part of Midnight's pre-patch. Blizzard laid out its 2026 WoW plans last month, giving fans a glimpse at what's coming in Midnight and beyond. WoW VP and executive producer Holly Longdale recently said in an interview that she believes the Warcraft IP is underutilized and that Blizzard has a bigger vision for WoW than simply being an MMORPG. And with this next article, we'll see just how likely it is that they actually build on the WoW IP, because not everything is going to hit, the president of Blizzard admits. Joanna Ferries has confidence in Blizzard's future, but she also has realistic expectations about succeeding every time. This year marks the 35th anniversary of Blizzard, and the company already has a reason to celebrate the recent Overwatch rebrand. Oh, we'll get into Overwatch next. We might actually include this in here. That's revitalized the hero shooter. Blizzard president Joanna Ferries is very optimistic about the company's future, but she's also fully aware that not every swing at the plate will work out in its favor. We've set a lot in motion with respect to the future of Blizzard, making sure we're clear on it, making sure we're coordinated on it, said Ferries during an appearance on the Xbox official podcast. There's sort of a reliability that players can depend on us to launch in big ways, launch in surprising ways, and maybe take some zags. Not everything's going to hit, that's gaming. But in many ways, let's understand where we are going, not only as a company, but by franchise and by game. Ferries may be referring to some Blizzard games that were in development but never saw the light of day. In 2019, 2019, Blizzard reportedly canceled a StarCraft shooter after 2 years in development in order to focus on Diablo IV and Overwatch 2. Compared to some of Blizzard's other franchises, StarCraft has been underutilized, but there have been recent reports that a new StarCraft shooter may be announced at BlizzCon. A separate report suggested that Arc Raiders' parent company Nexon is working on the StarCraft shooter. Fairies recently teased potential Hollywood adaptations for Blizzard properties, but warned that the company set a high bar before greenlighting anything. Another Blizzard executive, Holly Longdale, hinted at potential new games set in Warcraft universe. But for now, we may have to wait until BlizzCon in September to see these projects materialize. Speaking of Overwatch, Overwatch hits an all-time peak of concurrent players on Steam. The past few weeks have been a whirlwind of change for Overwatch fans, but this time everything seemed pretty positive. After 3 years with the 2 in the title symbolizing a sequel era, Blizzard has officially decided to leave the numbering behind and launch a brand new season. This new era officially kicked off yesterday, February 10th, with the debut of Season 1, Conquest. The update arrived with a massive amount of fresh content, including new in-game events, animated shorts, and a historical first for the franchise: the simultaneous release of 5 new heroes. And we're actually going to be talking about one of those heroes later on. In less than 24 hours, it seems Blizzard is already reaping the rewards of this soft reboot. That's because the game just experienced a massive surge in PC players, reaching heights never seen before since its arrival on Steam. Somebody should tell Highguard this is how you do a hero shooter. According to data from SteamDB, back when the game was still carried the 2 in its title, concurrent player counts usually hovered between 20,000 and 50,000. While the numbers were relatively stable, the game struggled to break past that ceiling for quite some time. However, that trend saw a drastic and positive shift on the day the Conquest season premiered, known as yesterday. Well, at the time of doing this video was 3 days ago, as Overwatch recorded a historic peak of 165,651 concurrent players on Steam, setting a massive new record for the game on the platform. For more context on this achievement, the game's previous all-time high on Steam was around 75,000 during its initial launch on the storefront in August of 2023, meaning that the concurrent count is more than double its original Steam debut. Oh, and there's more context. Before the new era, Overwatch's peak of concurrent players was only 42,000 in January. Even as of this writing, the game is holding strong with over 112,000 players online. Still outperforming its original launch day, you can check Overwatch's current SteamDB stats below by yourself. So yeah, here you see a number of players on right now, 112,000. 24-hour peak, 165,000. All-time peak, 165,000. It seems that dropping the 2 and having an ambitious relaunch was the health pack Overwatch needed after a rocky period of internal shifts at Blizzard and gameplay changes. And player impressions for the new season are leaning positive, with the community's Overwatch is back sentiment echoing across social media. Now, according to this article, the test really begins, seeing if Blizzard can maintain the massive momentum in the weeks to come. And we're talking about every new Overwatch hero, and all of them got nerfed except one hero. A few days after dropping 5 new heroes into Overwatch, Blizzard pushed a small patch live with balance adjustments for everyone. Everyone gets nerfed. You get a nerf. You get a nerf. Everybody gets a nerf. Except Emery and Anran gets some welcome buffs for her general damage output and a slight adjustment to how her fan the flame damage interacts with armor. It's more important than it might sound. So I guess this character is more of like a tank buster. At the top of the list is Domina, though Blizzard is, for now, leaving her primary fire's exceptional range untouched and keeping the perk that extends that range. It'll just be easier to take down panels from her barrier shield now. Some folks noted that a Blizzard developer left a comment in one of Overwatch streamer Innomog's videos that they made another change to Domina, one that isn't in the patch notes. The change stops her crystal charge from restoring shields if it damages a deployable object, like another Domina's shield, and it doesn't count self-healing towards Domina's ultimate charge. Polygon was unable to find that comment, but after testing it in-game, those changes do seem to be present. It was an erroneous comment, but it seems to have been true. Other important updates include increased explosion range for Emery's excellent grenades, and further fall-off damage distance when he's aiming down sights. That should make eliminating flying characters like Jetpack Cat a bit easier. Anren's primary fire deals more damage now, and Overwatch treats her Fan the Flame damage like a beam attack. That means armor only reduces damage from it by 30%, which should make wearing down sturdier opponents a bit easier. Speaking of Jetpack Cat, we'll be talking about him later, her counterable ultimate remains untouched. She just has less fuel now, and Vendetta's lifesteal perk was bumped down to 30% instead of 40%. The full patch notes are below. Domina, they nerfed her barrier panel. The health is for the barriers reduced from 250 to 225. Zook fans, impact damage increased from 20 to 22. Fan the Flames. Impact damage now uses beam against armor mitigation, only reduced by 30 when used on armor. Inferno Rush can now be cancelled with a Quake melee attack. The passive skill Ignition, burning build up linger time increases from 3 to 4 seconds. Emery, synthetic burst rifle, fall off range increased from 30 to 45, from 30 to 45 to 35 to 50. Cyberfrag, explosion damage minimum radius increased from 1.25 to 2 meters. Mizuki, Spirit Glaive, cast time reduced from 0.1 second to 0.025 seconds. Recovery time increased from 0.7 to 0.75 seconds. Healing Casa, range increased from 25 to 30 meters. Default soft targeting range increased from 8 to 10 degrees. The ultimate attack cost increased by 7%, and it now heals for 100 instant healing on cast. Jetpack Cat, Frenetic Flight, regeneration rate reduced from 30 to 25. And Vendetta, Siphoning Strike, lifesteal reduced from 40% to 30%. And like I said, speaking of Jetpack Cat, Overwatch players pissed about Jetpack Cat's ultimate don't realize there's an easy way out. Look at any Overwatch forum with a post that mentions Jetpack Cat in the title, and there's a high chance it's a complaint or full of grumpy comments. Sometimes it's about her ridiculous supply of fuel, which we learned in the previous article was actually now reduced, which should probably be adjusted in future patches, and the tiny hitbox. Mostly it's about her ult, which should absolutely not be adjusted in future patches. Yes, it's annoying when you catch the cat bus to hell before realizing what hit you, but there are a lot of ways to block or cancel it. It just takes teamwork and the right abilities. One method is to just not get hit, which is less rule 1 don't die than it sounds. Unless you're Sigma or a tank with absolutely no movement abilities. Anyway, Jetpack Cat lets out a telltale yowl before she pounces, and this happens right after she's already locked on. That means there is no chance of her changing direction at the last moment. So unless she's at ground level and close by, you've got about a second to use a mobility skill or something like Anren's Dancing Blaze that lets you evade attacks and get out of the way. If the pounce connects, turns out there's a lot of ways to get your teammate back. Any ability that stuns or hinders an enemy will cancel Jetpack Cat's ult, even if they're flying off with your friend into the sunset. Although it's probably not a great idea to cancel it if they're already off the edge of the map. These include Orisa's Javelin, Cassidy's Flashbang, Sombra's Hacking Skill and EMP, Mizuki's Chain, Anna's Sleep Dart, Domina's Sonic Repulsors, if you're really lucky and have a nearby wall to throw the cat at, Roadhog's Hook, Doomfist's Rocket Punch, Mauga's Cage Fight Ultimate, and Hazard's Downpour Ultimate. There are other possible options though. You'll need really good timing, like Reinhardt's Charge or Earth Shatter, Bridget's Shield Bash, Wu Yang's Tidal Blast, and May's Blizzard. These are doable, but in a once-in-a-blue moon kind of a way. So you would have to have really good timing in order to pull those particular moves off in a fashion that would save you. Your team has a few supporters who can lend a hand as well. Lifeweaver's Life Grip snatches an ally out of Jetpack Cat's claws, assuming you're within range, and can even work after the tether ends and the cat drops them into the abyss. Your own Jetpack Cat can also activate a lifeline tether after the drop to pick them up. The catnapped ally needs to accept the grapple, of course, so hopefully they're paying attention. And if you're the one that's being carried through the air against your will, you can fight back, fire off some hits, and depending on who you're playing as, you've got a good chance of just eliminating Jetpack Cat before they drop you off the face of the world. Jetpack Cat's players almost always target your team's tank, or whichever player is causing the most trouble for the opposition. So if you're playing as a character who can counter Jetpack Cat, which you should be if your opponent is fielding one, make sure you're keeping an eye on your most likely to be targeted teammates. Double up and travel with a friend. That's the hint for the strategy against Jetpack Cat. Blizzard wants to make team play a bigger focus of Overwatch's future, and figuring out how to deal with Jetpack Cat's ultimate is part of that. Friction that rewards you for learning how to use character kits effectively is a good thing. And the article says, I hope Blizzard remembers that when the probably inevitable Jetpack Cat balance changes start rolling out, which I read about in the previous article, and that was due to the reduction of fuel. Anyway, if you like these video game updates, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Have a good one, folks. Later.